Okay, so now we're going to answer probably the most important question of all, and that is, where's the money? And I should qualify that by saying, where's the money for us? Now, a lot of this detail is going to be determined by the type of SPV structure we implement, which in turn will dictate the type of instrument we can issue. But this is just like a really high level, what could potentially happen. So we're going to adopt the previous structure, which is our previous way of looking at things, which is customer to investor, left to right, and that goes via the originator, and it also goes via the SPV. And as I said before, there's a little dividing line between the Spanish equity release here and on the other side, funding factory. Okay, so we get our customers coming along here. This is Joe Public, who owns a nice house or apartment in Spain, Lucky Dibbles. And got customer number 1 all the way to customer number N. I'm not sure, nth customer. First customer and nth customer, I don't know. Now, as I said before, we've got this originator and our originator is Spanish Property Solutions. And we also then have our SPV, throw that out here. And our SPV, kind of separated as again. And then we have our investors. And we've got inv number 1 to inv number X. Yay. Now, I haven't really a clue about this, if I'm perfectly honest, on what we can levy where and when, but there are a couple of obvious ones. Firstly, to actually start the whole arrangement and to do the processing and all that, and that does involve getting an independent assessor to go up and out to the individual customers. And we're talking about 5% of the sale value for the basic costs of arrangement. Now, we're also talking about a 1% admin fee, and we're also talking about a 1% yearly fee. Right, now the reason we have the yearly fee is that we don't know how long this person is going to live. And there is a certain, and we also, like, the longer the person retains ownership of their property, the lower our yields. So we kind of need to balance it out a little bit, and that's why we have this. And the admin fee, it basically covers, it's an inception fee. I know we're already taking 5%, and I know that in total, the customer then is also having to shoulder something like around about 3% in costs and plus various stuff. And what this ultimately means is that the customer they may receive 60% of their of the market value of their property. And if the market value of their property is particularly low, just say if it's under maybe a couple of $100,000, they could be looking at essentially 10% of the of this 60% being removed. In fact, it's more than 10%. They could be looking at receiving 50% of market value after all of the costs have been deducted, okay? So, I mean, that's just the way it is, unfortunately. There's a lot of sunk costs in terms of getting this thing set up. And there's also quite a good deal of cost, particularly in setting up this SPV and in doing all the marketing as far as the investors are concerned. On the SPV then, so beneficial ownership goes in this direction and cash goes in this direction. Sorry, that's bare ownership. I keep on saying beneficial ownership. In the SPV, we could potentially take a percent or two, maybe 1% initiation fee. And so we get a percent here. And we could also take a percent here on uptake. So the initiation is against this flow in here, against the beneficial ownership, and the uptake then is against these flows here from the investor. So again, this is just a for instance. Now, I think we should also build up a reserve here, and that reserve, even though this is meant to be a very thinly capitalized entity, that reserve would be used to maybe smooth out the difference between investors being present and the so what we're expecting is over time, unfortunately, we're sometimes, so this is the number of deals on this, and that kind of translates into cash paid plus BO transferred. So what we're looking at here over time is we're probably going to have time when we've got, as I said, loads of people who are interested in investing and not enough beneficial or bare ownership titles within the pending within this pool here to satisfy demand. And similarly, we're going to have scenarios where there's basically too many people who want to engage in this Spanish equity release, but not enough investors. Maybe the whole market is starting to tank, in which case we are going to have to try and smooth this out a little bit. And obviously one way of doing that would be by having some kind of reserve here. Now, we're very, very much constrained in terms of how we manipulate this here and what commitments we get into. And usually the arranger is the guy who will come along and enter into specific, um, he'll set up specific facilities for us around liquidity. It might be a borrowing facility, to a short-term borrowing facility. It might be effectively like an overdraft facility. I don't know. It may be that we can borrow other securities and send this through to the originator. Borrow other securities and send this on to our investors, and then when we get our own securities generated against these bare ownership titles, we can repay those other securities that we've bought. I don't really know, but these are some of the strategies that come into play. So I think I've knocked that one on the head as well. And I'm now going to, and by the way, all of these percentages, they're just total bullshit. I've made them up. We really do need an arranger to come along and tell us where we can make our money, how, to what extent, after creating securities, we should retain those securities, and that'll be dictated obviously by the margins that, by the liquidity that we maintain in here, by the asset, the tiering, the capital adequacy that we have around this. And as I said, it's usually quite a highly geared entity. So, but that's just an example of where we could make money. And obviously this looks really, really good. But the thing is, this, could be really, like, add up to a hell of a lot more money, because it's a funding factory. We're plugging in various debt channels into this. The Spanish equity release is just one of them. So I sincerely think that 2% of a hell of a lot is obviously going to be a lot more than 5-10% of something that's very small. Not to say that Spanish equity release won't grow, but it's just this sort of arrangement here. I think is probably going to give us the most bang for our buck. It's going to be not the most bang for our buck, but because it's a wholesale setup, we'll probably end up doing loads of different channels here. We'll have, for instance, mortgage restructuring companies pumping in here and us pumping out securities. We'll have all sorts of things. We could have lease arrangements against the Irish government that are being funded through securities that are issued out here. There's a multiplicity of things that we could be doing. So I'm going to conclude on that now, and I'm going to go on to the final thing then, which is the REITs and the SOC IMIs and the bond and the annuity, basically the security structures that we could get into. Okay, thank you.